Beautiful and strong people, welcome back to the Deadlift Mastery, the last lesson of the Deadlift Mastery, but also the last lesson of the whole Mastery. So I hope this was helpful. I hope you guys have learned a lot during this period of time. I hope you are actually applying what you're actually learning into your training and not just, consuming without applying. So we're going to finish off with common faults and fixes for the deadlift. Okay, every fault is feedback if you know how to read it. So we're going to get straight into it and find the faults, describe the faults, the causes, and the potential fixes for it. So we're going to start with the first one, which is going to be hips popping up first. Okay, the causes why this might actually be happening can be because of a loss of brace, weak quads, or just rushing tension. Okay, fixes, really great fixes for it. Tempo deadlifts 3 to 5 seconds to the floor. So you can even do the tempo on the concentric, but also on the eccentric. It's really going to teach you a lot about where your hips should actually be, but it's more efficient when you're actually doing them eccentrically, because when you're going through the eccentric, your body will automatically get into the position in which it actually has the best leverage for the hips. Okay, so it's really going to tell you exactly where your hips should be for an efficient pull. Pause deadlifts just below the knee are also a great tool to teach this and really reinforce good habits of actually pulling, because it's going to be very punishing if you're not pausing where your hips should naturally land in. So you're actually going to learn by actually being punished by the movement. It's going to be important to scale back the loads that you're actually going to use for the tempo deadlifts and the pause deadlifts. So start small and build up as you're actually progressing through it. Or reinforce bracing before pull. Okay, so the easy way around it, just make sure that you're reinforcing the bracing, you're taking your time with the brace before you're actually initiating the pull, so you actually have the leverage and you can more readily do the pull efficiently. Another fault, you're just yanking the bar without trying to generate any kind of tension. As you can see, even when I'm trying to do it incorrectly, I'm still to some degree pulling some tension in there. Not on the first one, but on the second one, I'm starting to actually pull some tension, because that's what, mastery really looks like. When you're actually mastering the movement, even when you're trying to do a movement into a fault, you can't really do that as efficiently. You have to, actively focus on it because your central nervous system is just so fine-tuned. This is why mastery is so important, and taking the time to actually master the movement is so paramount to generating force. So causes for that, just skipping the slack pull, keeping the lats loose, or just rushing the setup. The fixes, slack pulls with click drills. Okay, so just doing the slack pull itself, nothing more. With another layer of complexity, you can actually add static holds with the brace. So when you're doing the slack pull, you're holding that slack pull into a static hold for 5 to 10 seconds while also maintaining the brace. That's really going to teach the patience of the floor. And, if you're having loose lats, just some lat activation drills, straight out pull downs, for example, to really fire up that proprioception of your lats and just make it easier for you to actually engage with them. Another one, very common one, rounded back. Just look how ugly it actually looks like. Jesus, no. My back is hurting only by looking at myself doing such an atrocity of a deadlift. So causes, poor brace, weak erectors, or just rushing the hinge. So as fixes, we can go with the bell test pulls, because that's really going to help us to teach the pull. Pause in setup to reinforce the brace. So pausing, especially if we're actually pausing just off the floor, is really going to help us with that. And extensions. The GA jars or extensions are going to do great for that. Now, let's see if this is not working. Let me just try that again. Now it works. Another fault, windmilling. This happens especially on the mixed grip, and it can actually happen because of uneven hand setup or just poor shoulder external rotation. So it's going to look something like this. Just you're mostly rotating on the side in which the hand is actually mixed. Okay, so a couple of fixes: squeeze the triceps to even up the grip. Okay, external and internal band or cable drills or any kind of drills for the shoulder mobility. You're going to find some in here. Okay, you're going to have a shoulder extension in here. You're going to have an internal rotation in here. You can also use a booty band just around the wrist and just go through a pressing motion to also help with the external and internal rotation. It's actually going to facilitate it a little bit more, the external rotation, and band dislocations right here. So just going through with the band, keeping the elbow as straight as possible. Another fix that you can actually do, trying hook grip if your hands are actually allowing, or straps in training if it's so hard that it doesn't really allow you to actually train properly. So another fault, hitching or ramping. This is often caused by weak hip extensors or just patience at lockout, lack of patience at lockout. So really good fixes, block pulls or rack pulls, Romanian deadlifts for hip extension strength. This is absolutely great. So that's also going to train, if you're doing it without straps, it's also going to train your grip. So it's a really good mix to have in there. It's important to be patient so you won't hedge. But it really comes down to patience, because if you're not patient with the setup, you're going to end up in a position in which you may potentially hitch, especially if the load is quite considerable. So it's very close to your 1 rep max. Another fault is just drifting bar. The bar is actually drifting away from you, something like this. It can potentially be because the bar is too far from the shins, chin is not tucked, or you just have no lat engagement at all. Okay, so there are a couple of ways in which you can actually go about it. Bar to shin drill. Okay, just always practice to make the bar to shin drill and just make that contact to the shin with the bar. Neutral head practice with the wall cue. So just going to the wall and trying to press against the wall. That's going to teach you the chin tuck. Okay, so a solid position of your head. Or lat engagement drills. Specifically for this one, a really good one is having a band wrapped around. So when you're actually pulling, the band is actually pulling you forward. So it's automatically going to engage your lats. It's automatically going to force you to stay stacked and keep the bar close to you, because it's going to punish the hell out of you. So another really great tool for that. Now, a loss of brace can be by exhaling mid-pull, bracing late, or just vertical breathing. So if you're breathing into your chest, you're not really going to have much air to actually brace. So as fixes, bracing drills, like we actually described, dead bugs, rollouts, beltless pulls might also help because you kind of have to create that belt. You have to create that brace. You have no other choice. Or don't forget about rebracing at the bottom before the lift. So as a fixed framework, if your hips are popping out, tempo and post pulls will do great. If you have a lack of tension, slack pulls and lat drills will do great. Rounded back, beltless and erector work. If you're windmilling, grip symmetry drills together with some shoulder rotation work. If you're hitching, RDLs with block pulls. If you have a loss of brace, just bracing drills and beltless pulls. So in summary and in closing, everyone makes mistakes. Mastery is about fixing them. We're diagnosing, drilling, reinforcing, and retesting. We can use pauses, tempos, accessories, and stance work to actually bring those weaknesses up. Having a weakness is actually a blessing because it tells you exactly where you need to work to actually become stronger. So embrace them. Try not to chase ugly gym PRs if it really looks atrocious. Try to keep the calm standard to a T as much as possible. So if if you initiate the pull and you know that, oh shit, my back will round the shit out of it, don't bother with it. Just drop the load. It's not worth your effort, and it's not worth the wear and tear that you're actually exposing yourself to. So without further ado, this was the presentation of the mastery course, the squat mastery, the bench mastery, the deadlift mastery. I hope you guys learned a lot. If you have any questions in regard to the mastery course, hit me up on Instagram, hit me up on YouTube, wherever you find it fit. Open up a conversation. Let's have a chat. Catch you later.